It's the first. Yeah.
Those of us who
Sorry.
in the tech club, I'm Captain Nation President. Larry is our illustrious tech guy, Vice President. Liz is the treasurer. And Lorene will be back soon. She's our secretary. Well, there's Lorene right now. And her husband Martin is our director. And Jim just walked out the door. He's past president, part of the tech team, and overall help with everything. So before we start with our tech talk, I'd like to just mention that we continue to have Sunday help sessions. And for those, you have to bring your own mobile device, whether it's a laptop, a tablet, or a phone. However, we will not have one on December 25th because it's Christmas. So we will continue again in January on the 2nd and 4th of the month. Now, periodically, we get some calls from people who want help setting up a TV or setting up a desktop. And we as the tech club and the tech team, it's not our mission to help with those things. I mean, basically, the tech team has a prime directive of supporting the technology lab and everything related to technology for the club. So anyone who needs extra help, we are going to start adding into the website a list of resources you can contact when you have a special need for that. And
I'm sorry, I was asked what you have on these.
yeah. Oh, that would be good. Come on. That's fine. All right, so now I'm going to ask Larry just to give an update on what's happening in our tech lab.
Yeah.
What's happening in our tech lab is we're updating all the computers and they will all be updated by the end of January. We got such a good deal on computers that we went ahead and bought all the replacements at one time. And there's actually 2 new ones in there right now. So if you want to see how Windows 11 works, that's what's on these new machines is Windows 11. There's not a big change. It's just getting used to where they move things to. Like your start button isn't over on the left anymore, it's in the middle, things like that. Not any kind of big major changes. So that's kind of what's going on in the lab right now is those updates. But go in and play with it. If something doesn't work right, let us know. There's the notebook in there that's in the file cabinet there. You can write notes in there. Let us know what didn't work for you or what you didn't find. And we'll see what we can do to help you out or make sure if there's something missing that we didn't transfer over from the old machines for some reason, let us know that as well. But we believe we've gotten everything transferred over. So, but help us out if you have any issues, let us know. Yes.
Are they all PCs or are they Mac? Are there any Macs in there?
There is one Mac in there that is not being replaced. That we just put that Mac in there earlier this year, and it's a used Mac. We got Tim donated it to the club, and so we do have a good Mac in there now, and it works really well. So, and it's up to date. That's why we had to get rid of the old one. We couldn't update the operating system anymore. Any other questions? Thank you.
And I always thank Larry and the tech team for all they do. Because I'm not the tech whiz. Some people will call, oh, you're the president, then you just, no, I call Larry. And remember, the part of your membership is that you have access to the printers, color and black and white, and the iMac is also set up to print to those. Now, the tech talks that we have monthly, we invite different vendors, different people to come in, and of course our disclaimer is this is by no means an endorsement, but we like to offer a variety of information that we think would be of interest to our members. So today we have a talk on electric bikes. in January, Tony Virgil will return and talk about virtual reality. And then in February, we're hoping someone will come and talk about apps, probably from Safeway. We're working on that. Then in March, Tim has lined up a speaker who has worked in IT and all different aspects of that. And she can talk about anything. So I want to get a little feedback from you who are here on what types of issues you face most that she could talk about. So what's something, if you could ask anything from an IT specialist, what would you want to know about? That would apply to your situation. Yes,
IPTV, IPTV, Internet Protocol TV.
okay, Internet Protocol TV, what is that? I don't even know.
It's basically streaming, but it's not streaming through Prime or any of the well-known.
Okay, so that's something available on most smart TVs? Or you have to have a special TV for that?
I do it through a Fire Stick,
Oh, okay,
because you can sideload programs on Fire Stick, scan on TV.
okay,
But it let us cut the cord completely. We kicked Comcast out the door.
exactly.
Best day of my life.
Yes, okay, that's, what else? What else would you like to know? Oh, we know it all, right? Are there situations that you find over and over again that when you're working in whatever technology comes up over and over again? Yes,
Our speed on our computer, even though we've got a higher thing, seems to go slow or it doesn't work there at different times. Maybe it's just Xfinity, but it's slow.
okay, so computer speed. And I would also recommend calling Xfinity or going in there and asking, because I know they updated something and it's supposed to make it faster if you unplug your modem and plug it in again, but I'm not seeing any greater speed. What have you thought of?
That was this.
Oh, that was it too, okay. Computer speed,
Are you doing a speed test?
No.
No, but we've shut off the computer, we've done the router.
Do you have a brand new router? Because I know
Yes.
Larry said if you don't have the white one, you have an old black one.
Oh,
Even though they may have delivered one to you, could be an older one.
Okay, it's a gateway, it's black.
Because Larry said some of the other ones are.
Yeah, the white one is the newest one they got. And you should be able to just go down there and ask them for an update.
The latest and greatest.
Yeah, if you got the black one, you need the white one, that's the newest.
Are you renting their modem
Yes.
from Comcast?
That's,
I would strongly suggest not. It's very easy for them to throttle their own equipment. And they do it.
Yeah, too many people are on in your neighborhood, they'll slow down the speed.
you know, I have independent equipment, I'm getting something just over 200 megabits. I don't think that's what they're advertising. But it's that is
Thanks, everyone.
well, in the next newsletter that'll go out in mid-January, I'll also ask for people to give their suggestions or their ideas, so just think about it, see what you'd like to know. So today, we are honored to have John from,
James.
my script here. James is from Pedigo. He's a co-owner and manager of Pedigo in Tucson and Oro Valley. And he's going to talk to us all about e-bikes. I'm sure you've seen them around. Pedigo is a particular brand. So James, please take it away.
Thank you, Kata. And several weeks ago, you asked me to come and do this morning, and I'm very thankful that I'm here with you guys. So there's a lot of technology in electric bikes, and I had 30 years in aerospace before 5 years ago when my wife and I got into our first store. And so this morning, I'll first of all, I want to learn a little bit more about you guys and technology. I know Tom's got an e-bike. Who else has an electric bike personally that you own? Okay, How about have ever ridden an electric bike besides Tom? And he's got a different brand, which is fine. You're an early adopter. I told Tom a few minutes ago. We're in the initial-
Quite a few people on your product.
Okay, yeah, we
They're
see
very
that.
happy with it.
Yeah, good, it's good to hear. So I guess I'll kind of back up a little bit and tell you the history of e-bikes as I know it and as I understand it. Why and how Pedigo, the brand, started. And a little bit more about technology in this specific bike, which I'm delivering here up in the Highlands, just north of here, after we're done here today. So this is the customer delivery. I've got the charger and all the goodies in the box back here. And we do deliveries if people can't pick them up. So yeah, anyway, I've got about 30 minutes. E-bike is pretty much all we do. My wife and I got in this business. It's been almost 5 years. We just finished our 5th year in Tucson, and March of this past year, we opened up our Oro Valley store. And I was between opportunities, kind of in the last few years of my professional working life, and I wanted to do something entrepreneurial, but I saw a banner ad. You guys ever been just looking and reading something on your device and you see a banner ad? Well, I saw Own Your Electric Bike Store. And so I thought it was interesting, and I clicked on probably the only banner ad I ever clicked on. And it talked about a website that talked about a Pedigo store. And so I looked up the nearest one, and we were in Chandler at the time, and I went to the Scottsdale store. Went in the door, and as I got to know Kathy and Bill now, she started telling me about what I'm coming into in the store. And I said, no, I'm not here looking for a bike. I'm just kind of analyzing the product and the company to see if I want to open a store. Well, I took a spin across the street on the bike. She showed me how to work. And after about halfway around the parking lot, light went on in my head. This is something I want to do, that I'm passionate about. There's some technology in this bike. Okay, and so I looked further into it, went to Southern California at headquarters, and my wife and I got a couple of bikes, and then the rest is history. We opened January of 2018 in St. Philip's Plaza. We've moved across the plaza 2.5 years ago in a twice as bigger space, and now we have our second store in the Oro Valley Marketplace. So backing up, electric bikes they're not new. In the 1890s, the first electric bike was operating. I don't know much about that gentleman, but you take a motor with a battery onto a bike frame, and you can make an electric bike. And fast forward to Lee Iacocca here in the US in the 80s, after his kind of getting out of General Motors, he was the first one that had a vision of electric bikes being prevalent from in most any household. And he started a company, I can't remember what it was called. I had met his technology officer just last week at the Worldwide Pedigo Dealer Conference. Fascinating gentleman. He's an expert on bike batteries. And so he was teaching us last week about the battery technology. And I wanted to grab him and get more information about what Lee Iacocca was doing, but his vision was to, at the time, and he was really way ahead of his time. He had a NiCad battery, and at that time they had 3 battery sets that they put the big heavy batteries on the down tube, and that was, you know, ahead of his time, and it failed because the battery technology just wasn't where it was supposed to be. That's too much weight. It only went 10 miles, and there were some hundreds of bikes that were initially built that were never sold. And so fast forward, I'll tell you a story about our co-founder and CEO. His name is Don DiCostanzo. And I've got my website up here, and I forgot to bring my collateral to give out to you guys. Like I said, this isn't a sales call, but if you ever want to wander up here, our address in the marketplace is here. Our phone number, info@pedigoov.com. I'll pass my card around. Maybe if you guys can, you're interested in copying down my email address, phone number, you're welcome to it. Just pass that around. But John D. Costanzo was, he still lives in Newport Beach up on the bluffs. I don't know if anyone knows where Hope Hospital is. It's kind of up on the bluffs of Newport Beach. And it was about 2007, and he had been riding his bike down to the beach, maybe weekly, weekends. And after you're in the sun for a couple hours and you're riding home, he had to go back up the hill up on the bluffs to get home on his bike. And too much traffic to try to find a parking place in the Strand and the split down there in Newport Beach. And so we found out there's bike technology, e-bike technology, and so we bought one. And it was so ideal going up the hill, passing other bike riders, that he thought it was great technology. Well, he got involved in buying a couple more bikes, and he bought some for his neighbors. He told them all about the e-bike technology. And he got himself right next to the Spaghetti Emporium there in Newport Beach. He had a store. He sold all things electrical, electric golf carts, electric bikes, electric scooters, electric skateboards, and he was trying to catch him on the technology. Now, Don had been, his background was in the automobile chemical manufacturing business. And somewhat entrepreneurial, has a marketing mind, a marketing degree at Cal State Fullerton, but he decided that really all the technology really should be focused on electric bikes. Golf carts, too cumbersome to transport around. Electric skateboards, you would have a device, a handheld, device in your hand. And he found out that if that skateboard wasn't talking to the remote, there was a chance that the skateboard would run away. And he said, that's not very safe. However, the electric bike was very functional. And at the time, he had 7 different manufacturers, all from China, very cheap, inexpensive bikes. And the first dealer he bought his bike from was all the way across the country in New York City. And so he got to thinking, why am I on the West Coast and there's nobody selling these e-bikes? He got together with his buddy, business buddy, and co-founded Pedigo Electric Bikes. And Pedigo, as a word, is a pedestrian go, pedestrian electric go, and that's how Pedigo was born. And the first bike that they had in their mind that wanted to be better quality and a better design, more elegant design. And so the first one was called the Comfort Cruiser, and it was based off the Schwinn Beach Cruiser. Of course, in Southern California, you're in the beach cruiser territory, you're on the boardwalk and so forth. And everyone remembers the Schwinn Stingray and those kinds of bikes. This is a cruiser bike. And you've probably seen other electric bikes with a battery kind of punched in the down tube here. And that wasn't in the 2 co-founders' minds. That was a very elegant design. So not only did they want to create better technology in terms of quality manufacturing, but better, more elegant designs. And that was the start, building the Comfort Cruiser of Pedigo Electric Bikes. Now that was in 2008. And for the very first year or two, they were taking bikes from a manufacturer from Asia and putting NiCad batteries. At the time, it was only NiCad batteries. Lithium-ion were not prevalent at the time. And they were doing a conversion and making a Comfort Cruiser bike still with NiCad batteries. NiCad batteries aren't meant to be charged up, discharged in a short amount of time, and then charged up again. So when you have a battery cycle, a cycle is a charging cycle and a discharge. And this technology has about 1,000 charges on it. A NiCad battery is just, is meant to hold a charge for a longer period of time. And after you use it for a couple of years, it loses its useful life. It wasn't meant to be charged and discharged frequently, like on a bike. The game changed in about 2008, 2009, when lithium-ion technology came about. And I've got lithium-ion in my hearing aids. We have lithium-ion batteries on our devices here, right? And it's really changed the world on the electric mobility scene, scooters, skateboards, one wheels that go this way like a snowboard, unicycles that go this way. You've seen them all out on the roads and the roadways. Electric bikes are using that same technology. And in the last 10 years, so let's back up again. 2008, Pedigo Electric Bikes was one of the first companies in the e-bike business. And that's 15 years ago. And the first couple of years, they were just barely getting into lithium-ion technology. Well, in the last 10 years, since 2012, the electric bike technology, primarily batteries, we have much longer range now, smaller, more compact batteries, and even the components that we put, for example, on the Pedigo bikes are much better quality. So the initial bikes that came out, and Pedigo was producing them back in 2008, they were okay, but the range was maybe 20 miles. And the parts were okay, better than what was out there that Don was used to, Don DiCostanzo, but he, in the last 10 years, we've really upped our game in terms of quality and have always had rolling changes on our bikes. Some bike manufacturers have model years, just like a car manufacturer. Well, he always thought, well, let's have improvements in our bikes and just cut them into production whenever we have an improvement. And that's what's going on now. So the bikes, even though we've had the Comfort Cruiser now, we've had it almost 15 years, it's been upgraded, and we're still selling Comfort Cruiser bikes. So a little bit about Pedigo now. We are the largest US retailer of electric bikes. My wife and I's two stores are two of 220 stores around the country. And we have 17 different models of Pedigo bikes, and that's all we do is Pedigo electric bikes. Think of our business model like a Harley Davidson store. When you go into a Harley store, you don't see a Kawasaki or a Yamaha, it's only Harleys. When you look at the accessories that go on the bike, most all of them that Harley has is Harley branded accessories. So Don and Terry, the two co-founders, as brilliant marketing people as they are, kind of emulated Harley Davidson a little bit on how we do our business model. Let's talk about how they try to get out into the market, because if Lee Iacocca wasn't successful with it, how was new technology with these new batteries going to do it? So the first year they went around to like independent bike dealers are called IBDs, and there's still 7,000 of them around the US right now. And the first few stores they went into, they said, hey, we've got a new technology here. We're in a company called Pedigo, but they're electric bikes. And most of the store owners said, electric bikes? No. And Pedigo? No, we're not going to put bikes like that in our store, but thanks for coming anyway. And that was the story, IBD after IBD, and they never gained traction. The very first dealer was a guy in Huntington Beach. He approached Don at a trade show. And at that trade show, he says, hey, Don, I want to have a store, but I only want to sell these Pedigo bikes. Would it be possible to become a dealer of yours? And Don said, Tom, his name is Tom Bach. Tom was still a dealer at Huntington Beach. And he says, Tom, I'll only make you a dealer if you can rent these bikes. And Tom said, you know, I was thinking about doing that anyway, because nobody knows about this technology. A good way to introduce people to it is to have some rentals. And so he started the first store, and he said, well, Tom, are you going to just have this one store? He said, no, I plan on opening 6 other stores in the Long Beach, Metro, LA, Southern California area. And so he did, and that was the start of now 220 independent bike stores that only deal with Pedigo electric bikes. So when you guys are looking around in the market, most of the time you're seeing some competitors of ours that are direct to consumer, meaning they bought a bike on the internet, okay? We're the lone brand that has this business model as a brick and mortar store that we thought personally that having a level of service that is second to nobody in terms of when the minute you come into any of our stores, we're going to help you look at a couple, 3 different models out of the 17 models and give you a buying experience that is second to nobody. We're going to get you out riding bikes in the parking lot. And we also suggest, heck, rent a bike for a couple hours just to make sure, A, this is what you want to do in terms of buying some product and riding bike for the next few years, because they are expensive. And then B, is this the right model and size for you in looking for the experience you're after? And so we also have the longest warranty in the industry at 5 years. And so we're the brick and mortar store brand that has stores where you walk into and we do tune-ups and scheduled maintenance on bikes, but we enforce our warranty. And I know I'm putting a plug in for Pedigo here, but we are very, very different. Now, where else could you find electric bikes? Well, you can find them in other independent bike dealers because the light went on somewhere and they're starting to put e-bikes into their stores because they don't want to miss out on the market. So if you went to Oro Valley Bikes, Sabino Cycles, you went to where's some other Aho bikes, Roadrunner bikes, Broadway bikes, you know, they'll have their brands. Maybe they're specialized and the specialized have a few models in their store. And so you know, you can buy e-bikes out in the market 3 different ways. From the independent bike dealers I just mentioned, from direct to consumer on the internet. There's some pitfalls there, of course, or from an independent store like a Pedigo Electric Bikes. And so that's a little bit of history. That's how Pedigo came about as a company. One thing that Don DiCostanzo, our co-founder, he's still our CEO. Terry has moved on to other things, the other co-founder, but he wasn't a bike guy. He was not a bike. He wasn't looking to get into the technology at all. He was in the automobile business, a series of car washes with different chemicals that he had put forward for better ways of cleaning cars and whatnot. But the things that we do as a company are altogether different than a regular bike shop. And so when you walk in, we're all things e-bikes. So what we are as store owners and the people, the employees in our store, we're doing a lot of educating and advocating. So what we talk about is Bob, butts on bikes. Within a couple minutes, I want all of our people come in the store. If they have an interest in e-bikes, I want to get them on one of our bikes out riding in the parking lot. And we have nice safe areas of our parking lot here in Oro Valley. We go out in the back of the parking lot and we show people how this technology works. And then after an initial demo, I said, okay, now it's your turn. And then so they go out and take a spin on the bikes and the light comes on and they say, hey, this is fun. And we're a recreational brand. E-biking is fun. When I listen to people and they come up to me all the time, and you know, Tom did this when he came in this morning. And no, it was George, the IT guy with the tablet. What's his name? George, yeah. He said he rented a bike in Carlsbad. And he starts telling me the story about how fun they were, about how you go up hills and it was really easy. So every time I listen to a story, it's all about having fun on a bike. And so that's what we focus on. In fact, our tagline, that's not somewhere on our website here, is hello, Tama, fun, ... How do you want to have fun on an e-bike? And so I've read all kinds of different articles. I even put out an article for the Green Valley publication, Valley Friends and Neighbors, about the various ways you can have fun on an e-bike. And why would you want to ride one? Now, you guys have seen them out in the city around really the whole US. And it's really the last few years they've really caught on. But there's lots of benefits of being on an electric bike. And first of all, the reason why bikes gather dust hanging up in rafters of your garage is because somewhere in the back of their mind, they remember the last time they went on a bike ride. And it had to do with a hill, or it had to do with wind, or it had to do with fun going out, but it was terrible coming back to the home in the garage. Maybe they lived in the foothills and they had to go up the hill. Whatever it was, they put that bike in the garage and that's where it sat for weeks, months, and sometimes years. So, first of all, they're fun. In the back of your mind, after you get off your electric bike, you're thinking about the next time you want to get on your electric bike because they're so much fun. There's something about the liberty of being on a bike again. And I'd say about a third of the people on their first e-bike ride, and we've estimated, okay, so we have 1,300 plus Pedego bikes that we've delivered in the last 5+ years in Southern Arizona. That's quite a lot of bikes. Now that you've seen the Pedego name here, and that's where our logo is, you'll notice them around town more often now. We've probably gotten 11,000 to 12,000 plus people in the last 5+ years riding an e-bike for the very first time. And about a third of them, when they start taking off on the bike, there's a chuckle or a giggle, I don't know what to call it. And when they come back, several of them will say, that brought me back to when I was a kid again, having fun on a bike. Biking isn't complicated, it's just plain fun. That technology on moving, and there's been studies that have shown, of course, the good Lord made us to walk upright like this. This is very efficient. We're made and built to do this. But the most efficient way to travel and transport yourself is on 2 wheels. So whoever built the bike and developed it centuries ago did a great job. But now if you put a very quiet motor on it with a long-range battery, you can see where the technology can take you, right? So we figure, my wife and I and our employees have done a really good job getting people on the bike. So getting back to where we all as employees, we're educating and advocating for a new technology that is new to most people that come into our store. And it hasn't stopped. Now, every once in a while we'll say, I'll say, well, hey, very first question that we ask people when they come in the store, first time in the store, they said, where'd you learn about us? Second question. Well, I did from the internet. So I asked further, I said, well, did you do a Google search or, well, actually my neighbor, I saw him on a bike and I had to check it out. So they find our website, find where we are, and they come down into the store to check it out. More and more so, I'm getting people like Tom saying, hey, I've been on a bike, I rented it in another city, or I own one now. It doesn't have to be a Pedego, but I'm here for my wife to look for a bike. So more and more so, we're seeing people utilizing this technology. So why do people want to get on a bike? Well, first of all, it's fun. Secondly, you feel like a kid again. Thirdly, you have some liberty now. If you're not very active and mobile, I'll go to the extreme. We just had a customer a few months ago. He's got a prosthetic leg. He was walking 1.5 miles, and he's kind of an older guy, but he was taking care of his mom daily. He had to walk with the crutches to get to take care of her. And he's on one of our pre-owned bikes. And we have some pre-owned ones that get on trade. Some of our rentals at the end of the year, we get rid of them. Well, we have him on a Comfort Cruiser now. And he doesn't have any pedals on it because he can't pedal, but he just uses a throttle. And now he can ride to take care of his mom and, daily. And he does it with a smile on his face. He's a James. And I got him on video. And if you go to our Instagram page, Pedego OV or Pedego Tucson, we do a testimony Tuesday. One of his testimonies was a few months ago. I said, Dave, why do you like your bike? He says, you know what? This is liberating for me. Now I can move and transport myself and take care of my mom daily on a bike. I would get infections on my bloody stump and I couldn't go to take care of her. And so there's utility in riding a bike. You can transport yourself Personally, I e-bike commute, technical commute, not every day like today, but I average 3,100 miles a year on my Pedigo commuter. That's 3,100 miles I'm not on Tank Verde Road, Sabino Canyon Road, and River Road. And that's good for all of Tucson. It's not only just good for me. And so that's a great benefit is commuting and not getting out of your car. And we know the world is warming and we can do our small part as well. But secondly, I get my workout in the morning, my cardio workout. Some people have these ideas in their head that e-biking is cheating. And we heard that a lot of times the first year we were in the business 5 years ago. But just like a regular bike, that's just a regular pedal bike, you can lazily ride, or if you really get on it, you can get your heart rate up. That's exactly the same on an e-bike. So in the morning, I've got a 42-minute ride into work, and I consciously keep my feet on the pedals, pushing on the pedals, and I've got my heart rate on my Apple Watch, and I want to be at about 115 beats a minute for 42 minutes. I don't need a gym membership, right? And so I use technology, not Map My Ride or Ride GPS. I use Strava to record all my rides. And at the end of the year, it says, James, you bike commuted and it keeps track of your commuter miles, 3,125 miles this year. And I may have gone 4,000 miles because I ride my regular bike too. And of those miles, about half of them going to where I get my workout done. So there's been studies that have said you can get your heart rate to 90% of what your heart rate is on a regular bike using an e-bike. And I've proven it on my own Strava. Because when I go on my regular bike to work, my heart rate's set at about 125 beats a minute. And on my e-bike, I'm at 115. So I'm getting to about 90% of my heart rate. Now, after I've been on my feet 8-9 hours, when I go home, I want to relax on my e-bike and let the technology take me home. And it does. And so I get home at the same amount of time, maybe a minute or two later. But I've had the motor and the technology take me home. And many times my wife says, hey, James, could you take the van home tonight? And I'll say, oh, really? Rather ride my bike. Now, you guys have probably, felt the traffic go up in the last couple months, especially in the last 2 weeks, it seems. On Friday nights, I'm only 13 minutes slower. We're using my e-bike going home compared to a car with traffic. Yeah. What are the benefits do we have in electric bikes? Physical benefits, right? There's mental benefits. So people that are getting outside and getting stimulated. I've even seen t-shirts that says, having a bad day, go ride a bike, something to that extent, right? Something about getting on a bike, just letting go of your stress. So on those days when I'm riding my bike and my pedal bike home, I get in the door, all the stress is gone. Whereas my colleagues in the cars, they get home and they're all still stressed out because of the drive, because of the day they had, right? And so that's a big benefit. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I have several. So how hard is it pedal?
Yeah. So
Heavier than it the regular bike?
yeah, good question. We're about 23 pounds of extra weight added to a regular quality weight. And that 23 pounds of extra weight is, in this particular model, this is our Interceptor, we call, and it's a step through. If I had a bar here back in the day, we would have called that a men's bike. This would be a ladies' bike, but we call that a step through. 68% of the men that get this particular model get a step through. Now this Stephanie Blue, we couldn't call it Tiffany Blue because Tiffany wouldn't be very happy about that. So we have an employee back at headquarters that is Stephanie's favorite color is this kind of blue. So we call it Stephanie Blue. And this particular bike has a motor back here in the hub, and that's 750 watts. We used to be pretty much a company that was building 350 watt or 500 watt motors. Now the new Pedagos have 750 watt motors. And the rest of the bike, we have a battery back here. But beyond the battery, the motor, and some cabling that go to a throttle and an LCD display, we do have a controller right in the forward part of the battery box that looks like a couple of, all the wires are coming out there. We have 5 different wires, and there's a couple CCA cards within a waterproof metal container that looks like the size of a deck of cards, and that's called the controller. So the controller is talking to the battery and also to the motors. We have cabling that go to the axle. There's a wire that's going right through the mid part of the axle. And then we have cabling that go up here to the throttle and to the LCD. So, but the rest of the bike is a regular bike. This particular bike has a derailleur, which is a shifter that shifts onto 8 different speeds. And I use a shifter here. We used to have a lever and a button shifter on the right side. Most of our new bikes have a grip shifter for 8 speeds on the left side. And so when you add the cabling, the battery, the motor, the battery is about 7-8 pounds. It adds about 23 pounds to a regular quality bike weight, okay? And in this case, this particular bike is, because of the motor and battery is back behind you, you have an aft center of gravity. So if I step through here and I get my seat on the seat, and we have a nice comfy suspension seat post, nice big comfortable seat. It feels a little bit tail heavy when I'm just standing over the bike. But most of the time when people take a test ride and they ask about the weight, and I said, well, while you were spinning around the parking lot, did you notice the weight behind you? I said, no, I really didn't. So a little bit more elegant design, putting it back behind you rather than having the battery here. However, our newest model and our newest 2 models that we've built the last 2 years have the battery in what we call the down tube here. And that's bringing the center of gravity closer to the middle of the bike. And that's a good thing. When your center of gravity is underneath you and you're moving left and right around your center of gravity, that's optimum. What else do we have in this bike? Well,
Black.
yeah, no, this is the lock. I'm delivering this to Yvonne after this. So Yvonne has, she only brought 1 accessory to go on the bike. And your 2 main essentials are your helmet and the lock. And then everything else could be added to that. You could have a left-hand mirror here. You could have a phone holder. On the bottle cages here, you can have an adjustable bottle cage, you know, all kinds of stuff you can put on your bike. As long as you have a bike, the world is your oyster in terms of accessories. And the ladies do the best job of putting accessories on the bike. So this is a bar lock. And if I put the key in the top here, it would separate here and you'd use it like a chain. So these are metal bars with plastic around it. And so we tell people, go ahead and lock the bike up to a bike rack, a railing, a sign, something immovable. And we created a program about 4 years ago that if you're using a Pedego lock like this, and we have a chain lock that's compatible too. If your bike is ever stolen, one time Pedego replaces your whole bike at no cost. So it's an insurance program that goes with a very good lock. And so when you're not using your lock, you're putting it into the holster here and locking it like this, and always in the center line of the bike. You got your key in your pocket, and while you're riding around, and stop. Let's say you're on the shared use path, the loop here in Tucson. I mean, you can use the restroom safely and lock your bike up. Or you're stopping at Trader Joe's, you need to get a few items, you can lock your bike up. So that's what that is. We have a front light. We have 2 ways to turn the bike on. I'll turn the battery on first, and then the bike turns on like that. It's going through the self-test right now. If I turn the LED, this is a light your path light. And they come all standard on the bike. And now our LED, most of our new batteries have a big giant LED back here. If I take my brake levers, I get brake lights. And we have a little cable here for adding a left-right thumb switch for turn signals left and right. It's a $35 switch. It's not standard on this bike, but they can add it if they want to. But the rest of the bike will cover that. We've got brakes, rear brake and front brake, just like a regular bike. But we have hydraulic disc brakes. So when you look at, turn this around. Turn the light off here now. So the disc brake on both of them. You have a front disc, you don't have a rim brake anymore. And so we even have hydraulic disc brakes. So there's fluid that goes from this reservoir down through the cabling to this calipers that's squeezing each side of the rotor, just like a car. So we have disc brakes, hydraulic disc brakes in most of the models. But the rest of the bike is still a bike. And so you've seen a sticker, well, not here because the lock is covering it, but there's a class 2. There's 3 classes here in the US that 39 of the 50 states have adopted language that calls for 3 classes of electric bikes. A class 1 bike and class 2 are limited to 20 miles per hour. A class 1 bike is pedal assist only to 20 miles per hour. So as you pedal, you get a push and assistance from the motor. Some companies have 3 levels of pedal assist, 4 levels, we have 5 levels. So level 1 is slowest, and if I want to go faster, I just hit the plus key up here, and it goes faster. Each level up is about 3 miles an hour faster. So in level 1, you're at 8 miles an hour, level 2, 11, 14 miles an hour, 17, and then if it's flat and you're in pedal assist 5, you'll go to 20 miles an hour. And we can't power you above that. You're screaming down a really steep, long hill, we're not going to hold you back, so gravity can take you well beyond 20, 30, 35 miles an hour maybe. We're not going to hold you back with gravity, but powering you, we can't go more than 20. So we have one class, with 17 models, we have one bike that is pedal assist only to 20, and it's a full suspension mountain bike. This, as is most of our models, are class bikes. So I still have what class 1 has, assist, but I also have throttle assist. Throttle assist is from a throttle, and we do a throttle, which is a just a round shifter, driven shifter like this. Once I twist it toward me, and I'm in a pedal assist mode. When I'm in, my red button tells me I'm in safe mode right now, and I'm in 0 on the display, and so I'm safe to use it just like a regular bike. So there's 3 ways to use the bike. I could be in 0 mode and just ride it as a heavier regular bike. I could ride it in pedal assist, so immediately when I start pedaling, about a half a second after the pedal goes forward, I'll feel a push from the motor back here. And that's pedal assist. But if I grab the throttle and shift it towards me, and I can do this right now because I'm in 0 and my red light tells me nothing is on, I can show you, twist it toward you, and now you're controlling the motor speed with a twist of your wrist. It's either throttle assist or pedal assist, but not both. If I'm using throttle and I could just hold it and use it all the time, and you could, you'd be a moped, right? But 40 years ago, mopeds came out. They're not as fun as electric bikes, but they're kind of fun. Most people don't use a throttle bike like a moped. You could, and certainly David, that has the prosthetic leg, is using it like a moped, because that's the only way he can use it, right? Most of our owners, they like to use the throttle for a burst of power, like a throttle start as they're getting going, balancing on the bike. That's the hardest thing to do, is getting the bike started, balancing and getting some forward momentum. Well, why not use the throttle for about 20, 30 feet? Once you let go of the throttle, it goes back to the pedal assist you have in the window here. And I start most people on pedal assist 1. So after they let go of the throttle and they start pedaling, the pedal assist takes over and you're automatically riding in pedal assist. Some other people use throttle for, let's say the partner is 30, 40 yards ahead. You just want to zoom, zoom, zoom with throttle. That's another way of using it. Maybe you're pressing the top of a hill and you've been, you're still using and getting exercise going up a hill, but you're using a lot of the motor and a little bit of your help. But you want to crest the top of the hill, you can use throttle just to get up to the top of the, pressing the top of the hill, and then let go once you're done. Not to
Well, another topic. What is the maintenance of, and how to charge the battery?
Yeah.
Or
Okay,
are there problems with that?
yeah, so, we have 3 flavors of batteries in our store, a 36 volt. We have a 48 volt system, and the new bikes now are 52 volts. And, as you expect, the higher the voltage, the little jumpier and more torquey the motor is. Don't get that mixed up with the wattage of the motors. So we have motors that range from 750 watt to 500. We were a 500 watt motor company for 13, 14 years. Now we have the 750s, but we also have 350 watt motors in our original Comfort Cruiser. But we also have a mountain bike with a mid-drive motor. And you'll hear this technology, a rear hub motor like we use mostly, and a mid-drive motor. We have a couple models that have a mid-drive. They don't need as much horsepower because they're directly powering the cranks, and they're only 250 watts. So of the batteries, what really determines the length of battery and how long you can ride is the amp hours of the battery. So you get more amp hours if you have more independent cells within the battery. So our batteries are coming from Panasonic, Samsung. We're using some LG cells now. Inside this case is get a key like this to secure the battery. I'm going to turn the bike off. Turn the key, release the battery, 7 to 8 pounds. Within this case is what we call 8650 cells made by Panasonic mostly. And that 8650 is 80 millimeters across and 650 millimeters long. It looks like a roll of quarters. And you have about 14 of these rolls of quarters inside here in 2 different rolls, but wired in series and parallel. One of the 2, I can't remember which. Doesn't matter. And the life of this battery is about 5 years. So we warranty it for 3 years, 100%. Then years 4 and 5, we have a pro rata, but it should last you 5 years. How do you take care of this battery? 2 things. Lithium ion like to be between 20 and 80% charged. So when I drop this off to Yvonne next hour, I'll tell her, don't plug it in after every ride. You're going to be at 100% most of the time then. You have a tremendous battery range here. This battery range, this is a 910 watt hour battery. So if I take my volts, 52 times 17.5 amp hours, I get 910 if I did that multiplication. And 910 watt hours, that's how big. We use watt hours in the electric bike business to tell how big your gas tank is, so to speak. You could go to Trek Bikes and say, hey, what battery system range do you have on this bike on the floor? And I said, well, if it's 500 watts, you can compare 500 to, Patago's 910 and other bike models. So we use watt hours. But 2 things you want to not have people charge it after every ride. You have a lot of range here. In this particular battery, this battery is the longest range at 910 watt hours. You can go 38 to 76 miles on a single charge. And we give you a range there. Why a big range? Well, your 2 biggest variables on range of battery with motor use is how much you use the motor. And secondly, gravity. So we have 5 levels of pedal assist. The fast modes are modes 4 and 5. And throttle uses the most pedal assist. So if you're going fast and you use a lot of throttle, you'll get towards the lower end of that range. But also gravity, if you're going up hills or not versus flat, you'll get to the low end or the high end of that range. I wouldn't be surprised if we had an owner tell us that they've gone one time over 100 miles on this battery. If it was flat, if they were pretty light, not a big heavy guy like me, maybe a 120-pound person, get you a second kata. And if they help the bike along, they say in this 100-mile ride, they're on pedal assist 2 instead of 4 and 5. I'd be willing to bet you could take this battery and go 100 miles. So people in the store, when they say, well, how far can they go? I say, far enough as far as you want to ride on any given day, right? So the technology is certainly there for range. And now it'll be, we're warranting the whole bike and the whole battery for 5 years. So about 1/3 of the price of the bike is tied up in the battery system. And that's just in most e-bikes. Yeah, right question. Yeah. I'll get the charger out. It's like a regular brick charger on like a laptop computer. And one end goes here, and so you've got a 110 volt into the wall. And then this particular connector, it's an RCA back 3-prong connector. This is that 3-prong connector. And as I put the charger in, the other end's going into the wall. This red light would be on, and when it's done charging, it will turn green and automatically turn off. And so I always tell owners now, Yvonne will ask me next hour, well, when do I charge the bike? So, well, you have 5 bars of battery here. And visually you have an indication here, and you have 5 bars of indication there. You even have a percentage of battery charge on your display. And I always tell them, you know, you have a huge battery here. Just charge it when you're down a couple bars. Not every time you ride the bike. Maybe she's going for a 3-mile ride and just cruise around the neighborhood. And she probably doesn't maybe need to charge it, but once a week. It's a huge battery. And so most bikes, we have two types of batteries to select from that go into an identical case that you can take on and off your bike like this. Other times the battery's in the down tube. Okay. But the battery charging technology is really quite easy, and you plug it into a regular outlet. Now, are you reading about some things that are happening in New York City with fires and so forth on lithium-ion batteries? They're not just happening to e-bikes, they're happening to hoverboards and skateboards and all that. Primarily what's going on in New York City is they're using technology from very cheaply made manufactured batteries, but it's mostly the couriers that are in New York City. They only have about 10 to 15 miles per battery, and they carry extra ones in their backpack, and they get cheap ones on the internet from China. And if you don't have good battery management technology using good processes and manufacturing quality cells, you can overcharge battery. And think of the stored energy that's inside these 14 different, 8650 cells in here. Once you get those on fire, it's just one battery leads to another, and it's not a pretty sight. I've seen video of lithium-ion fires. Since 2015, we changed our battery technology. We've never had an incident or an accident with battery fires, but you will read about lithium-ion battery fires, especially in dense populated cities like New York City. And they're happening with very cheaply made technology from couriers typically that can't afford much but just a small flat. They bring their bike up into their flat overnight or their apartment right by the door, and they charge batteries in the bedroom. They can't escape their bedroom, they can't escape their apartment, and they're trapped in other people. I mean, it's terrible what you read. But for what we do, the battery expert that was working with Lee Iacocca, chief technology guy, said, I would put a Petco battery and use it for a pillow. It's very safe. So good products, use good technology. So
You said something about trucks, electric trucks.
yeah, so we have 17 models. We have one particular model that's called our Trike. And if you went up here to electric bikes, and you can get a picture of the Trike. And we kind of group the bikes into categories of cruisers, low step, city, adventure, specialties. Click on specialty, and you can see kind of what our bikes look like visually. They look like regular bikes. We do have some fat tire bikes, some off-road bikes. Our Trike is looking like that. And we have a new redesigned Trike where the motor is in the front hub and the battery is here. And the person sits there, goes up and down that way. And then you have a tub and back for 50, 60 pounds. And for people that have really balance challenges and they can't ride a two-wheel bike, the trike is a good option. So you can click on that trike if you wanted to. Here, might blow it up a little bit better. Yeah, so she's riding very upright. The handlebars do adjust right here at the stem, and so she's got them pretty close to her. Her back is straight. And we go 11 miles, 12 miles an hour maximum on the trike. We believe that it's our trike or really anyone else's trike. Once you go faster than that and you turn that wheel, similar to the three-wheel ATVs back 30 years ago, they had a bunch of accidents, you will tip over or have the risk of tipping over. So we keep you under 12 miles an hour, and then she can go wherever she wants to go. She's got the liberty to go outside and ride an electric trike. So we power the front wheel and everything else is the same. You have brakes. You have a controller to get into pedal assist, only 2 speeds instead of 5. And then she also has a throttle on the right hand grip. Yeah. So let's see. It's getting toward the end. How about other questions?
Yeah, going back to the batteries for, there are. Lithium ion batteries are really bad press, and I realize that, you know, it's mostly somebody not using the right charger, but there are safer technologies. But lithium iron phosphate, which I think started to be used for it, automobile. Why not be adapted to the bicycle?
Well, we're hearing about a new form of lithium ion, and it's called solid state. And they're testing it now. Lithium ion solid state will be a lot safer, smaller, lighter, medium, still using lithium ion, but not using the technology that these cells have. And so we read about what's going on. Bikes will get lighter. They will get just as much range. I don't think you really need to improve the range right now. It's really pretty good the way it is. And that's what I hear that's coming down the road. But I'm not familiar with the phosphate. When you just have
lithium iron phosphate and lithium baggage, something or several to past 4 or 5 years. The lithium iron phosphate is absolutely impossible to overcharge those things.
Okay. What we have, besides, if you went into our factories like Panasonic, where they build these, you're very much in a clean room environment. You can introduce foreign object dust into the manufacturing process that will really put the cells at risk once it's enclosed within a case. And Panasonic, Samsung, LG, companies like that really know what they're doing. Very controlled environment, but we also have a BMS battery management system that is part of the controller CCA cards that control the battery itself. And so we have control mechanisms to shut down the battery when it's fully charged. And so we don't have any problems telling people to charge overnight. And in the morning, you'll get a green light on your charger and just unplug it. I don't suggest having that on all the time or having your battery in the charger all the time. But we feel safe enough that if you wanted to charge overnight, we're going to shut down that BMS would have to fail for something like that to have something catastrophic happen. But so the BMS is doing a lot of things. The other thing we do is and this is prior to 4 years ago, we used to have to tell our owners if they went back up as a snowbird up to Michigan for the summer, take your battery and put a charger on it once a month for 20 minutes. You want the cells to go to sleep. And if you lose a few of the 14 cells, even 3 or 4, you may not be able to save the battery. You'd have to change out those cells, which we don't do that type of work anyway. But now the BMS puts the cell into deep sleep when it senses no movement over a period of time. How much? Well, 10 days to 2 weeks, depending upon how worn down the battery is. The battery puts itself in the sleep mode. It could be like that for months on end. And then once you put a charger on the battery, the BMS wakes up, the battery wakes up. There you go. So 2 small features of many that are controlling the battery itself. The cells are just, they charge and discharge. We have a discharge port here, the charge port is here, and the cells just do what the BMS said it needs to do. Yeah. What other questions do you guys have? Yeah.
Maintenance on the bike, you do all the maintenance, like.
Yeah, good question.
Bolt break the bolt.
Yeah, so mechanically, the same thing, broken spokes, adjusting the gears, brake pads need to be changed out, just like a regular bike. So think of a regular bike with 8 speeds. And the maintenance you need to do, certainly tires, get a flat tire, we have tubes in these tires. We remind you with green cap that there's slime or sealant in them. I'll get to that in a minute, but basically the extra things, this motor doesn't have a maintenance interval. There's no grease interval. It's just ride it and forget about it. It's warranted over 5 years. In fact, we've had probably, I can count on probably 7 or 8 times we've changed motors out. 2 of those were outside of warranty. Had to go set a motor anyway. That's the kind of company we are, and so rarely do motors fail. If they're making noise and these are geared hub motors, and there's planetary gears inside there that are moving with technology and manufacturing itself. We got away from a company, although we're using Ryzen and Bafang motors now mostly, but a company called Dapu in Japan, we're building our motors. And companies like Toyota and Dapu, they're building thousands and thousands of these motors. I'll give you guys a statistic here. In 2020, where we have the last annual data, there's 1 million e-bikes imported and sold here in the US, okay? Since 1995, the last company that was building bikes here in the US, Cannondale, went offshore. So all the bikes that we sell here, even Specialized Trek in Wisconsin, they're getting their frames and components from all over the world. So in 2020, 1 million e-bikes sold here in the US. And we're just on the start of a big bow wave of new technology. It's going to get mature in about 10 years. The Europe, 5 million, and they have an 8 to 10 year head start on e-bike technology compared to the US, another Western country, Canada, US. We have 15 stores in Canada. China, 30 million e-bikes sold, 6 times Europe. Now, those people in different culture in China, we have a recreational car culture when you look at biking. China, India, other places of the world, they have to use e-bikes, not for recreation, they use it for transportation. So when people say, well, I choose James, I don't want Chinese parts on my bike. Well, I'll tell you what, Dapu, who has practices from Japanese company like Toyota, they sub out their manufacturing to places in China to build motors because they build 30 million a year. So people think that this technology is new in the US and we're subbing it out to other countries. Well, we are, because we're subbing it out because they've been doing it for years and years with millions of parts. So it's getting mature. Our bikes are improving. We hold the feet to the fire to our suppliers. And we have 5 different factories that build bike frames for us, mostly in Taipei, but Vietnam is taking over. And for example, these are Schwalbe fat frame tires. Schwalbe is a German company, but the rubber comes from Indonesia. So that's where our tires come from. So similar to Boeing, you get a narrow body out of Renton, you get a wide body up north in Seattle from Everett, right? They get all the components, into Boeing, and they put the bike together or the airplane together. Our components come from all over the world. So we still say we're Patagonia USA on the badge because Fountain Valley, California is where headquarters is. Engineering designed this bike from the ground up to be an electric bike using our designs. So we haven't gotten a vanilla design out there and put our badge on it. So one last question, was there one back here?
How does it work when you have 2 sets of pedals, but a tandem bike?
Yeah. All right, similar to just a regular tandem, you have a timing change, so you're both pedaling, in the same cadence and rotation. But all we do on our tandem and our rental, the most fun rental is our electric tandem. We don't have a pedal assist on our tandem. We have a behind the second rider, we have a battery like this, but we also, you have two human riders on a tandem. But we have a throttle here for assistance when the tandem is going up a hill, where you need a little bit of a brake, you just use the throttle. And that's how our tandem works. But it's a timing change. It's just like a regular, regular tandem bike though. So I would urge any of you guys, if you want like one question,
Range on and versus a solo.
well, your two variables are, there's more weight on a tandem naturally. And because of gravity, if you just stay on the shared use path or loop, I'd be willing to bet you get at least 40 miles on our tandem. And we say there's 30 to 60 miles range. 40 miles, that's 3 hours, 3.5 hours of riding.
Yeah.
I would urge any of you, if this is something you might want to try, come to any of our 2 stores. We always think try before you buy is fun, but we always just say, just try before you buy is always the best way if you're in the market for you, seeing if this technology is the right thing for you. We just come and rent a bike. Come and ride one in the parking lot, ride 2 different models, see what they're all about. Our TripAdvisor, and we've, for the 3rd year, we have the Traveler's Choice Award. 10% of all TripAdvisor attractions around the world get that award, and we've gotten it. So we're, lots of people give us great reviews because they have fun when they go and rent a bike. And we have over 518 Google reviews on our 2 stores, mostly the one in Tucson. So thanks for the time. I know, I hope I gave you a flavor for a little bit of technology and what you like. So it's quite a bit though.
Next, we'll see you next month and learn about virtual reality.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.